Ancient Greece, 3000 to 146 BCE. In this unit, you will focus on just one civilization from the ancient age, the Greeks. Many of you are familiar with the Golden Age of Athens, known as the Classical period, a short 80-year period in the 5th century BCE. This is the time of Greek gods and goddesses that you may recognize from mythology, great realistic sculpture, great architecture such as the Acropolis and the Parthenon, the great philosophers Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, and the rise of drama. The ancient Greek age is divided into 3 time periods: early Greece, or the Archaic period, from 3000 to 490 BCE, the Classical period, 490 to 336 BCE, and the Hellenistic age, 336 to 146 BCE. Some big questions to consider during your study of the Greeks are: how did the Greeks in the classical period express classical humanism, a belief that humans could understand and control the world? How is the belief in humanism different from the beliefs of the people in earlier civilizations? Classical humanism was expressed by the Greeks in several of the artistic modes: human-centered sculpture and painting in an increasingly natural and realistic style, a fascination with mathematics and geometry, leading to advances in architecture, the development of the art of drama, and the creation of great works of theater, writings on the subject of virtue and excellence. The 3 great Western philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. In sculpture, the Greeks began sculpting humans to highlight the perfection of the human body. This style, in which the body is displayed in an S-curve with a bent knee and the torso twisted as in motion, is called the contrapposto pose. Compare the contrapposto pose with the previous sculptures of the body, the kouros, male, and the kourē, female figures. The contrapposto pose is much more realistic. Can you tell which Greek period these statues are from? You should recognize them as classical sculptures in the contrapposto form. Praxiteles sculpted this female contrapposto. He is showcasing the female form to highlight the perfection, strength, and beauty of the human. Let's compare this sculpture to images of the female body in the 20th century. These iconic women, Marilyn Monroe from the 50s and the model Twiggy from the 60s, showcased differing values of their respective cultures. As the role of women changed in the civil rights era of the 60s, notice how the images of women's bodies changed as well. Compare the depiction of the human body in the original Barbie dolls to Barbie today. Discuss in this week's discussion post: how do Greek sculptures of the human body differ from ancient age sculptures, Stone Age and Egyptian depiction of the body? What generalizations can be made about the values in Greek culture based on their sculpture? Architecture. The Athenian Acropolis is a city built on a rocky hilltop in the 5th century BCE in Athens. The most famous building is the Parthenon, dedicated to the Greek goddess Athena. The Greeks had different orders or styles of architecture. Each symbolized different values. Doric represented strength and simplicity. Ionic represented refinement. Corinthian, which developed later in the Roman time, so it's not really Greek, represented wealth. This fragment of relief sculpture was part of the frieze on the Parthenon. Statues of gods and goddesses ringed the Parthenon. They've either been lost to time or are housed in museums. Here is a Roman reproduction of the patron goddess Athena. Greek theater developed as part of a week-long celebration of wine, music, and dramatic competitions, all dedicated to the god Dionysus. Greek drama had 2 main forms, tragedy and comedy. A tragedy ends in a tragedy, usually death, while a comedy ends happily. The Greek chorus said their lines in unison, helping to narrate the plot and to amplify their voices so they could be heard. Actors wore masks with different expressions. They were built with tiny cones inside, like a mini megaphone, to help project their voices across the outdoor theaters. Tragic plays contained all of the elements of drama from Aristotle's Poetics: character, plot, spectacle, music, diction, and thought. A good play should also be cathartic, which means it evokes strong emotion. It should make you laugh, cry, feel fear or suspense, or otherwise release emotion. Notable tragic playwrights were Aeschylus, who wrote Oresteia, Sophocles, who wrote the Oedipus trilogy, and Euripides, who wrote Medea. The best known surviving comedic playwright is Aristophanes, whose most famous play is Lysistrata. I recommend that you watch excerpts from a few Greek plays. Check out Greek drama from ritual to theater to get a flavor for the genres of comedy and tragedy. My favorite clips are from Sophocles' Antigone and Oedipus Tyrannus, and the hilarious Lysistrata by Aristophanes. In Antigone, the title character, a daughter of Oedipus, confronts King Creon over the unjust treatments of one of her brothers. It dramatizes the power struggle between the gods and man. Oedipus is a tragic story of how Oedipus unknowingly fulfilled the prophecy at the time of his birth that he would grow up to kill his father and marry his mother. It illustrates man's hubris, an arrogant pride that ignores the limits of human understanding versus the power of the gods. Lysistrata describes what happens when women band together to coerce their husbands to stop fighting a war. It would be rated R by today's standards. Aristophanes uses comedy to express more serious ethical and political issues of the time. Religion and philosophy in early Greece. The Greeks believed in a pantheon of many gods and goddesses. We know much of what we do about their mythology due to the writings of Hesiod, whose Theogony, or Making of Gods, was written about 700 BCE. Early Greek philosophers discussed and wrote about the ideas of rationalism, which is truth found through human reasoning, and materialism, the concept that everything must be made of matter rather than just spirit. If you ever took a geometry class, you have probably heard of Pythagoras, the philosopher and mathematician and discoverer of the Pythagorean theorem. He was not just a mathematician. Followers of Pythagorean philosophy believed in the transmigration of the soul and a strict way of living one's life. During the classical Greek period, three great philosophers established a legacy. Socrates, who never wrote anything down, taught Plato, whose dialogues reveal much of Socrates' ideas. Plato's student was Aristotle. These great philosophers rejected the sophistry or word trickery of the sophists, Greek humanist philosophers who embraced skepticism and self-reliance. Socrates is probably best known for his use of Socratic questioning, a method of drawing out the truth from a student through direct questioning. It's still used in law schools today. He also taught the quest for virtue. Virtue is a condition of the soul. To know good is to do good, and the unexamined life is not worth living. His student Plato wrote the Republic and raised the questions, what is the meaning of justice and what is the nature of a just society? And the idea that leaders should be philosopher kings, both smart and powerful. He proposed a two-level reality based on forms. There are both constantly changing particulars available to our senses, imitations of forms, and unchanging eternal truths understood by the intellect, forms. For example, there is a form of a chair that everyone can imagine. Each version of a chair that you see or imagine, blue chair, desk chair, antique chair, is an imitation of a form. The ultimate form is the form of the good. Plato also wrote the allegory of the cave. In this allegory, a story in which everything stands for a more abstract idea, prisoners are chained in a cave with their backs to the cave's entrance. They can only view the shadows on the cave wall, and they perceive this to be their reality. When a prisoner breaks free from his chains and exits toward the light, he realizes that what they thought was reality was just shadows of reality. He tries to communicate this to his fellow prisoners, but they refuse to believe in anything other than what is projected in front of them. How is Plato's cave allegory relevant to today's society? What does each symbol or person in the allegory represent? Aristotle, a student of Plato, analyzed happiness in his Ethics. He wrote about the concept of eudaimonia, happiness, or the good life, is the only human value that should be a goal or end, rather than a means to the end. One achieves happiness by fulfilling one's unique function, the ability to reason. Action and reason are necessary for virtue. One should strive for the golden mean or ideal conduct. This is the middle of two extremes. The philosopher Epicurus, 341 to 270 BCE, developed a philosophy based on the principles that one should attain the happy, tranquil life characterized by the absence of pain and fear, and by living a self-sufficient life surrounded by friends. Pleasure and pain are the measures of what is good and bad. Death is the end of the body and the soul and should therefore not be feared. Gods do not reward or punish humans. The universe is infinite and eternal, and events in the world are ultimately based on the motions and interactions of atoms. In the East, the teachings of the philosopher Confucius, 551 to 479 BCE, would impact people for centuries. He wrote that ideal rulers should give up privilege and adopt a personal ethic of wisdom and humanity. One should be in harmony with one's family and society and exhibit gen, or individual virtue. When asked, "Is there any one word that could guide a person throughout life?" the master replied, "How about shu? Never impose on others what you would not choose for yourself." We will end this presentation with a few of his wise sayings. Confucius said, "An oppressive government is more feared than a tiger. When you have faults, do not fear to abandon them. With coarse rice to eat, with water to drink, and my crooked arm for a pillow, is not joy to be found therein? Riches and honors acquired through unrighteousness are to me as the floating clouds. What you do not wish for yourself, do not do unto others."